So welcome everyone once more to this gathering, this gathering in this intention of metta and of community. And beautiful to see the chat slowly coming to life with uh, the different presences. Yeah, see Kaz is here from the evening or night in New Zealand, others from other different parts of the world, all here together. Maybe some that will be watching this, sharing this later as a recording. So kind of spread across geography and across time, as well as we come together. It can be something very beautiful to connect to as we gather here today. And so a very warm welcome to all of you, whether it's day or night, cool and fresh, cold, warm, hot, the whole range. And be welcomed. And the seagulls here in Bridport and West Dorset are also welcoming you. I don't think you can hear them, but I can in their morning chorus. Has already been going for quite some hours. So we will have some time for reflecting on our theme for this week, and then some time for practice and time for questions near the end. And is hoping for a smooth internet experience and tech experience today for all of us. Maybe we'll just, before we go into the teachings, really go back to what I said earlier, the sense of this community spanning the globe, spanning geography, spanning time zones, spanning different conditions that we are in, and just having a sense of that. This practices that we share here in the Sangha Live daily meditation sessions. They span time on quite a big scale. There's been people practicing this way for thousands of years, and there's people all over the world practicing different languages, in different situations, in different times of the day, in different geographical locations and conditions, and with different conditions of the heart, the mind, the body. So can we just tune into that as we begin? And, makes me very tender to reflect in that way. And if it does for you also, then feeling the sweetness of that delicate sense of the heart being touched. So our beautiful community within this larger community of practice, and then the larger community of the world and all its beings. Many not fortunate enough to come across the nourishment of the practice, are not able, not having the conditions that support practice. And so sometimes it can be very beneficial to feel, yes, we're practicing on behalf of all beings. And so this touches on our theme. I didn't mean to go this route when I started this last bit, but then realized, oh yeah, this is what we've been exploring this week, the sense of the capacity that we have, to connect to all beings, to the whole world, with that sense of metta, of unconditional friendliness, as an intention. Maybe touch, or maybe moves, maybe things are going on that mean that right now we cannot connect, but we have that intention. It's part of our practice. And this has been our exploration this week. This is our path of practice as practitioners, to keep kind of expanding this field of kindness, of friendliness, and to expand it to more and more aspects of our experience and to more and more beings. And for some of us, it's actually easier to go big than specific. It's interesting to see. If that's the case, enjoy it. Yeah, there's something very beneficial about that. And then we expand our practice the other way to individuals. And for others, it's easier with a specific, with a kind of sense of a particular being, and then we open. But the process in either direction, in any direction, is of expansion. You know, expanding the range, as we were using the language yesterday, training those meta muscles. But today, what we will be mostly doing, if it's appropriate for us, so always the appropriateness there as a guideline. Sorry, I'm fidgety today. um, is to explore this intention of widening and this intention of opening the meta field as wide as we can, and to all beings, if that's possible. And I'll say a little bit more about that. But first, I just want to say, we're exploring this as a basic attitude. Again, this intention of metta. And Christina Feldman, I think I quoted her yesterday or the day before, she speaks about metta practice as an attitudinal commitment. Yeah. Whoa, that's a mouthful, but actually a commitment of attitude. Yeah, that's another way of saying intention, but it kind of gives it some oomph. It's an attitudinal commitment. We're making a caring commitment, a caring intention to cultivate, to nourish this attitude of friendliness and kindness. And really important to remember the appropriateness here, what I call the meta, M-E-T-A, M-E-T-T-A, big picture meta, which is too much of a struggle at the moment. Practice isn't working for you in this way at the moment. Bring in the meta with the appropriateness. Okay, so what practice does work? And that's what I do, because in the end, they all lead towards more metta, more compassion, more wisdom. So the appropriateness is really, really important. We're not forcing, we're cultivating. Yeah? Not forcing, we're training. Yeah? We're training. And so there's a way of practicing, and this is actually the closest to the meditation instructions in the suttas, in the Buddhist text from the Buddha, which is called radiating metta. And in the text, when the Buddha gives metta instructions, what they're saying is, go and find, an abandoned hut or the root of a tree, so a place where you can be relatively quiet, and then radiate metta in all directions. So in that practice, it's like filling a quarter of the world, going in one direction, then the other, then the third, then the fourth, until we're radiating the whole world, permeating the whole world with metta. And if that sounds complicated, don't worry, it's not. And a few things of that. So we can still use phrases or images to support that if that's helpful. Some of us, it's helpful, and we can just have a sense of just radiating in all directions, like as if there's a sun in the middle of our being, and that's radiating in all directions. It's not just radiating to the front, but we're not getting too mechanical also there. And interestingly enough, this can be a really helpful, beautiful way of bringing the metta intention also to where it's not easy or where it's difficult. This kind of just knowing that when we radiate metta in all directions, that includes those that we may be struggling in the relationship towards at this time. And that's our intention. So if it feels too difficult, we don't push it to kind of think of them there, but somewhere in the background we know, it's just like the sun or the rain. They don't discriminate who they land on, who they give the water of the sunlight too. So the same, it's just a radiating metta. And as always, what's the impact on this body, heart, and mind as we do so? And really remembering this is possible for us. It's not always easy. Sometimes it's easier than we think it might be. And also helpful to say and to remember. It's possible for us as human beings, each in our own way, our own time, the trajectory that is right for us. As I said, for some of us, this will be very relatively easeful, and for others, it may be more difficult. We can always go back to a practice, a metta practice or a different practice that is more helpful. Yeah, and we're not. It's not a kind of backwards movement. Yeah, it's a movement of appropriateness and of cultivation and of development. So yeah, and we're keeping lightly interested in how this shapes experience. There's a sense of metta through the being. How does that shape experience? How does this relate to our lives? How does it impact the world? Choose any or all of those questions. We're interested in those. So maybe I'll just say a little bit about the power of this metta practice. And this is something from a friend of mine, good friend, beloved friend, who's lives in Israel. And a few years ago, there were protests against the corruption of the government, particularly the prime minister at the time, who is now the prime minister again. And she was going to those protests. They were happening every week for a very, very long time. Yeah. And those protests were relatively small in comparison to what's happening at the moment. And sometimes there was police violence. And she found herself, this was also during COVID time, so it added an edge, found herself kind of having a sense of close-heartedness towards the police when she would come to the protests. And so she decided to make it a metta practice to befriend the police, and not just in her formal practice, she was also doing this, but also in the protests themselves. So when things were quiet, she would approach the police, she would talk to them, and there was a real sense as she was doing this over the weeks that this really makes sense. Yeah, because also, when we befriend, yeah, so much harder to then other, so much harder then to treat someone disrespectfully, even aggressively, if we have a sense of knowing them. And that's what metta does, it's a sense of bringing people into the known. And so she did this for weeks, and week after week, every week when there was a protest. And slowly, with one of the commanders of the police unit that was there most of the time, a friendship started to form. And they would chat. It wasn't just like real friendship. We'd be happy to see each other. And then the protests stopped because there were new elections and a new prime minister. And then about just over 6 months ago, they started again because the same prime minister got elected. And anyway, big, long story, much worse situation, much, much bigger protests, huge protests. In this time, my friend had moved. So she was no longer in Tel Aviv, where she used to be. She was in the north. And so she didn't meet. She kept wondering, where's my friend, the policeman? But she didn't meet him because she was not in Tel Aviv, where he was. And a few months into the protests, she and I went together to a protest in Tel Aviv, and I saw them meeting. And it was such an example of the power of metta. And they both said to each other, where were you? I've been looking for you every single time. Yeah? Every single week. Where were you? I've been looking for you. and standing there watching the protesters, the other police, watching this reunion of two uh, old friends, as if, just imagining what their history was. The history was that weaving of the meta connection and intention into a friendship, creating a friendship, yeah, and that lasting and that being really present. And we can just imagine how then the impact, not just with her, but with other protesters, how that impacts, how that changes the reality for many. So just putting it in there into the field, this is possible for us. Yeah? This is possible for us. Yeah? At our own speed, our own development, our own time. And now let's practice. Hopefully, we're getting some motivation. And if not, forget it. Forget the story. Don't try to figure it out. Don't try to feel anything. Yeah, just come into the practice. So, if you need to settle into your posture, please do. And taking the time that you need, whether you're just coming into the posture or you're already in it. Make any fine attunements, adjustments. That meta sense towards the body, our closest other, nearest other. As we do what we can so that the body is as comfortable, supported, stable as possible. As we do that, feeling the awareness, settling into the body. That intention of kindness and interest woven into the awareness, present in the awareness. And then inviting the awareness to collect and gather more fully, more deeply into the body. If you find it helpful, you can use the contact areas and the sensations in the contact areas between the body and that which supports the body, the seat, the ground, the mat. The grounding, gathering, rooting, and also softening the awareness through the body, letting it open and expand through the body. Having a sense of the whole body here in awareness, open through the whole body, softening through the whole body. Intention of kindness, practice as an act of kindness in the world, in ourselves. Also softening, expanded, present in the whole body. And tuning in to this metta intention, this attitude of kindness, of well-wishing, of friendliness, goodwill. Inviting it to become more alive, more present in awareness and in the body. Like a soft rain, bathing the whole body, both outside and inside, soaking in. Feeling the sweetness of this intention, the power and the tenderness of this intention. And so we're keeping a light awareness through the whole body. And seeing if we can feel that light awareness through the whole body has got a kind of center in the heart area, and the area below the heart, that whole chest, belly area. And we might imagine that area, that center, that heart of the field of awareness in the body as a sun or as a spring, a source of metta. Saying, what if the image works for you? And from that center, letting the metta naturally radiate, just like the sun naturally radiates light and warmth, or a spring source naturally brings forth water. We can feel that metta radiating or pouring, flowing in all directions. Without getting too analytical, just a sense of radiating in all directions, front and back and sides, up and down and everything in between. This will be our practice today if we wish. Keep the awareness gently grounded in the body and spread and soft through the whole body. Within that space of awareness, a softness, center. Most of us in the heart, belly regions. Just a general area. If it's helpful, imagining a sun or imagining a source, a spring of water or a fountain. Just radiating out this intention of metta into the world in all directions. Let's take some time to explore this in silence. Very gently, just noticing what's unfolding in experience right now without judgment. Moving more fully and more deeply into the heart of the metta intention in your body and your awareness. When I say body, you don't need to feel it very physically. It's like an area location. Softening the awareness through the whole body, deepening into the intention and the radiating, the flowing, pulsing of metta out in all directions. If you like the use of phrases, you can incorporate them also. It might be just with a word, happiness, and then feeling that being radiated out, peace or safety, can give the mind a little bit more to do, keep it engaged. Maybe with a full phrase, may all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful. And we might imagine the phrases coming out of awareness and that intention being carried out into the world in all directions. That's our practice. We keep engaging with it, showing up to it with playfulness, with creativity, with self-kindness. Finding our pace, our way with it. The metta radiate out all directions and towards all beings. As it radiates out, also impacts this body, heart, and mind, and feeling that. Feeling the well-being that comes as we practice in this way. Again and again, meeting our experience with kindness, coming more fully into the heart of metta in our being, source of metta, spring of metta, the sun of metta. And allowing the metta to shine, to radiate, to spread, to flow, to pulse from its heart and center within us, out into the whole world in all directions, permeating, filling the world with these wishes, heartfelt wishes for safety, for well-being, for peace. As we do so for the last 5 minutes or so of our practice, aware, if it's possible, that we're also included in each other's field of metta. So we're radiating it too, and all the others here are radiating it, and we are receiving these intentions of metta. Others are wishing for us to be safe, and happy and peaceful. Radiating kindness. Radiating out, feeling the impact within. Knowing that we are being bathed and touched by metta that is being sent to us. Right now in this moment. Feeling that giving and receiving. radiating out, feeling the internal well-being as we do so, and also knowing, feeling metta being radiated towards us, offered to us, and feeling this network of metta being woven between us and all across the world. Wishing for all of us, all beings, to be happy and safe and peaceful. This network made up of countless beings practicing metta in this way, in this moment, or at other moments in the past and into the future, and bringing metta into the world in countless ways, through time, through history. Across the globe. So when the bell rings, seeing if it's possible to continue to feel this network that we are part of, and that is here as a nourishment for each of us and all of us. May all beings in all directions be happy and peaceful. May all beings in all directions be safe. May all beings in all directions look after themselves, look after each other with ease. So as always, being metaphor in your transition, not rushing, bringing that kindness to how you move the body, how you engage with the world when more of the senses are open. Before we open to some questions, a reflection and an offering of practicing dana today. This beautiful embodiment of metta, which the sessions here are offered freely to all, wherever you are, however you are. These are offered freely. And the invitation for each of us, for all of us, to participate in the ways that are possible for us in keeping this platform, keeping these teachings going. It's a beautiful invitation. We can feel how this is possible because of this network of dana and metta. From the Buddha's time to now, keeping the teachings alive. And as we participate, we're part of that network. And we're always giving and receiving. We're recipients of it, and really worth feeling that. And generosity of countless beings that have supported the Dharma make it possible for us to be here today, because the teachings have been kept alive. Generosity of countless beings that have practiced as a form of dana. And then our own, in whatever way that takes form. For some of us, circumstances may be really tight, and so the dana of our time and our willingness to be here is more than enough. And for others, we are able to support financially, and we can have a sense of the beauty in that. And so bringing that into our practice, really appreciating and enjoying this opportunity to support. And anything that you give this week will be divided between Sangha Live and myself to cover both the platform costs and to support me in my livelihood for the teachings. So much gratitude for that. And I see George has put the donate link in the chat. Thank you for that. And so we have some time for questions and reflections. And as always, if you have a question, if you can start off the chat message with question in capitals, that helps me know which are comments that you wish for me to address and which are just general comments for the Sangha as a whole. So everything is welcome, anything to do with the practice today, with the teachings today, and yeah, or anything else to do with your practice. Yeah. And I see a comment there, which is not a question, but I don't understand. So I'm going to ask Rivka, what do you mean? Oh, well, if you don't mind saying, yeah, sometimes it bugs me afterwards that I don't understand what people have said. If you don't mind, if you'd rather not, that's absolutely fine. Yeah. Let's see what comes. I always feel like I need to give a health warning that if you don't ask anything or reflect anything, I'll carry on talking. So I'd love to hear your reflections and any questions on the practice. Suggestions, please, on how to be kind to the part of my mind that just wants to focus on fear. I struggle to shut off the mind from trying to solve so many possible future problems, many of which have real currency. Yeah, it's metta was actually offered by the Buddha as an antidote to fear, interestingly enough. So it's a very pertinent question. And, I think many of us know this aspect of the mind that, just goes off from the fear, but wanting to actually do something useful. And that can get quite confusing. So one really helpful way is through the body, calming and soothing, that fearful place. So attending to it gently, and it may be with metta practice directly, and it may be more with the breath or with the softening. So sometimes I might put a hand on my body, maybe particularly on an area that is associated with the fear, and just say, may you feel safe. It's not even may you be. To myself, may you feel safe. We actually feel that. Sometimes we are safe, but we don't feel it. And then with the mind that goes off to kind of try and solve problems, a sense of acknowledging that this may be important. So I'm not kind of saying, oh, shut up, you don't, there's nothing I'm exaggerating, but there's nothing you have to say that I'm interested in or that's valuable. But actually just saying, dear mind, not now. Yeah. Come back to you. But now it's the resourcing. Now it's the resourcing. So again, sometimes the hands on the body somewhere to support that and the not now. And at times when this is very activated, I might even, when I'm meditating, have a piece of paper and a pen next to me, just so that I have a sense I can write things down so that I don't forget. Because a lot of the repetition is because of this fear of, if I don't think about it now, I'll forget. I forget what it was that mattered to me, and I'll forget the ideas that are coming up. And often just having that there kind of calms the whole system down. I don't actually need to do it. But if it's very activated, that can also be a way. So hopefully kind of three ways. One is the feeling in the body, the soothing, yeah, of it, and the kind of maybe with the metta, maybe with the breath, and then the kind of saying to that aspect of the mind respectfully, meditatively, but just not now. And sometimes even saying that time, making a time to ponder, to contemplate, and then the possibility of having something there to write things down if you need to. So I hope that responds to you, Heidi. And there's another question. Any thoughts on working with the stickiness of guilt using metta? I noticed at a certain point during the practice feeling a light sense of guilt for not radiating more metta into the world. When you reminded us that others are sending metta to all of us, that helped because I could lean into the support in that moment. Yeah, beautiful, Amit. And thank you always as well. Yeah. So yeah, guilt is such an interesting thing. Just remembering that, all of these ways of imagining things are artificial. Yeah, they're like means to an end. They help us organize, but they're not really real. So the sense of, there can't be enough, yeah, or there can't be metta that just stays here or just stays with one being. So whatever we can do, and sometimes we need to work with our own sense of kind of not enough, depletedness, or whatever it might be, and nourish that. So remembering the support and that we're part of a network, yeah, really helpful in any formal sort of activism, of service, of caring. Yeah, we're not alone, because that aloneness comes and it depletes us. It also creates a really sense of a heavy weight of responsibility for us. And so we're kind of really trying to loosen that. So it sounds that even though you're asking for my thoughts, you actually found some really good ways of doing this, yeah, through the, this part of the field. It's not just me that needs to generate it. And whatever we generate kind of grows, yeah, in the world and has an impact. And there's also, maybe the last thing I'll say about this is also remembering that there's a really kind of interesting, funny, and potentially sticky thing with metta practice, where it's like we are sending metta too. And it can create this sense of separation, but also of this, again, this responsibility. And sometimes it might be helpful to say, I'm tapping into the network of metta that's already here, and I'm nourishing that. Yeah, so maybe that would be an interesting practice to try out. Yeah, so I hope that responded to you, Amit. And the last question that I can see, how can I use metta to work with my daily challenges around depression, anxiety, and escapist behaviors? Many thanks. Wonderful. Thank you, Fiona. I'm hoping that this week has already given you some sense of that. Often, just using it both as a nourishment, so it might be, depending on what's easy and accessible for you, doing the metta practice that's accessible and feeling the impact. Yeah, so that can bring a real sense of well-being, combats depression, safety and stability with anxiety and care, and nourishment, which kind of then diffuses those escapist habits, which are, trying to find solace, trying to find comfort for us. So really kind of using that, and it may be that self-metta is really helpful. Sometimes metta to another, that's easy, or to the whole world can bring that sense of support. And also, if this worked for you, feeling yourself, that there's always someone sending you metta somewhere in the world at any given moment. Yeah, someone is sending metta to you. Yeah, to each of us. And for me, this is like mind-boggling to know. And also, it relates a little bit to Amit's question that when we send metta, we're joining in that network. We're joining in that, and it makes what we offer kind of even more potent in a way. So yeah, really, really bringing that in, and that image that Lizzie's offering, the black dog, sometimes we can do that as well. Like, we can have an image for the depression or the anxiety or the habits, and send metta to that, yeah, as well, because we know this is a part that feels unloved or unlovable, uncared for. So we can kind of bring that, like, use that image and bring the metta there, as well, or compassion. That's more helpful for you. So I hope this has responded. I will stay here for a few more minutes to see if there's any follow-ups from people who ask questions or from others. But we've reached our time. So really wishing to thank all of you for your presence here, for your practice, for your questions and your listening. I'll be back, I think, in October. So it feels like a long way away, but I'm looking forward to it already. Go well, everyone, and take care of these precious beings that you are. Yeah? Each of you. Go well. Fiona, I'm seeing the follow-up, and I just have a couple of minutes to respond to that. If you're still there, hopefully you are. If not, then you'll find this in the recording. Yeah, so other times. So this can be really helpful to bring the metta into other times of the day. So, for example, so just to drop it in, not trying to have it all the time. So having a sense that, say, when you do something that you do quite regularly, you make a cup of tea, um, or wash your hands, some things that we do, have some water that you do regularly, do that with metta. And then you kind of tapping into that field, and you're dropping in these drops of metta into more of your day. And that can be really deeply transformative. And along with metta, it's sisters, so it may be also really helpful to actually tap into mudita, the joy and the appreciation, the gratitude. So again, washing your hands and enjoying the feeling of the water on the hands, and making a drink and taking time to really savor the warmth of the tea or the freshness of the water, and just doing that. And I can really, really kind of weave those drops of well-being into more of your day. So I hope that is helpful. Yes, and thank you again for your honesty and for clarity of the questions. So saying goodbye to you all. So we're reaching the end of the time that we can be here. And yeah, everyone who's still here, go well. Take care of your hearts, take care of the world as much as you can.